Joining us now is Samson Itodo. He's the Executive Director of Yiaga Africa. Samson, very warm welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, how would you describe how's the process been so far? By now, Nigerians are supposed to be kind of acquainted with some snippets of the results, you know, uploaded from the polling units and the wards and the rest, but reports reaching us, yeah.
Yeah, Yiaga Africa at 7 p.m. had actually raised the concern that no results have been uploaded.
So tell us, please.
No, first is to say that the elections did hold today in some polling units, and we were in those polling units, deployed observers to those polling units. And there were several issues, and you noted this in your introductory remark about the challenge of logistics. From a Yiaga Africa perspective, this morning, as at 7:30 a.m., in only 27% of polling units recorded early arrival of
all over the country?
Yes, based from our sample size, and because we deploy the PVT methodology, which leverages statistical principles. And so from all the sample polling units, in only 27% of them did INEC officials arrive at 7:30 a.m. And by 9:30 a.m., only 41% of polling units recorded accreditation and voting. So by 9:30 a.m., in about 41% of polling units. And that's quite sad and very poor.
It's a massive shame for the preparation the INEC is done for 4 years.
Again, we foresaw this because in our pre-election statement, we did note that this election was going to be a very challenging one, and there are several reasons for that. And it's just clear that all the projections and the predictions were actually real. We talked about the election manipulation risk index, and Arise was the first TV station that actually highlighted the election manipulation risk index. The elements of voter suppression, the elements of election fraud, all of that played out in this election, and it's just disturbing. Yes, in some polling units, people had the opportunity, to vote. They were excited about it, and that's a positive side. But this migration of voters from polling units also created confusion in some of the polling units. But one of the concerns that we've expressed, and like you mentioned, was the fact that as at 9 p.m., in fact, as at 10 p.m. tonight, if you go to the INEC election results viewing portal, you only find results for senatorial elections and House of Reps. But the results for presidential elections have not been uploaded on the portal. And we did express our concerns and call on INEC, to explain to Nigerians what's happening, through the portal. And to inspire confidence, the Commission needs to, upload those results.
Well, Samson, you've just gone in the direction I was really heading to. Really, even though we have to give credit to INEC, like you have said, days, even hours into this elections, we're not sure if we're going to get that announcement, just like we did, in 2019, in 2011, and even in 2015. But that didn't happen. When the Electoral Act was passed, one of the most exciting part about it was the electronic transmission of results. Unfortunately, like you have said, 10 p.m. tonight, the IREF portal, which most Nigerians like myself have been refreshing all day, and that hasn't been uploaded just yet. Talk to us about how this casts aspersions on the integrity of the ballot and its implications, really.
Well, so there are a lot of reasons. One, for some senatorial elections and House of Reps elections, there are results on the portal. But the big question is, how come presidential election results are not yet on the INEX portal? What could be the explanation? And I think that it's important to wait to hear from the Electoral Commission on what's the reason. But this entire scenario casts a lot of doubt, about this entire process.
Is this situation the partial functionality of the IRF, is it capable of casting doubt, about the results that will be eventually released? Because why is INEC every 4 years logistics problems? Every 4 years, we can't do this, we can't do that. What kind of organization, an umpire is this? You have logistic companies in the country, can't they fan out their logistic needs?
Yeah, I think that, yes, we just have to wait for the Electoral Commission to explain to Nigerians what's happened. For us at Yiaga Africa and like citizens, we have expressed our concerns, and there's huge responsibility and a burden on INEC to explain to Nigerians what really happened, because this portal was one that was celebrated by Nigerians. It was celebrated by people outside Nigeria. There are lots of countries and other electoral commissions, who have come to Nigeria to study the IREF. As I speak, even at Yiaga Africa, we are playing host to organizations from 4 African countries who have come to also study how we're using technology. And so it's important for INEC, to explain to Nigerians what happened. And I think that this is where, when you talk about deployment of party agents, it is critical. Because at the polling unit, every party agent, is entitled to a copy of the result sheet. And so we expect, because now we're looking at how do you inspire confidence. We hope that party agents have copies of those result sheets. So if any result
signed,
if any result emanates from anywhere at the end and it's different, you can detect
Samson, we'll wait for that situation to play out.
But
and also
to
wait for
mention,
INEC
the law also talks about the comparison between the result sheets, which is physically before the collation officer, and what is on the on the IREF. My sense is, if there is images of the result sheets were taken at the polling units, they will still be on the BVAS.
The BVAS has the capacity to do that. So that's why there's a lot of questions.
This is why a lot of questions need to be asked.
But the BVAS can be tampered with.
But if the results, what he is saying is, if the results, the agents, and it's a good thing we've talked about polling unit agents. I do know that for observers, Yiaga Africa, you sent about 4,000 observers all across the country. What are they telling you concerning, the conduct of the elections, especially as it has to do with voter intimidation? Despite all the reassurance we got from the IGP and all security agents, we saw what happened with the videos circulating everywhere on social media. Talk to us about what your observers are telling you and how you think this intimidation will rub off eventually on the conduct and eventual result of this polls.
Yeah, so in our pre-election statement, we highlighted critical incidents. And we verified about 41 critical incidents as it relates to the setup and the commencement of elections. There are also cases of intimidation, of not just of the voters, but also INEC officials. We also received reports where thugs, abducted INEC officials. In some cases, they even beat them up. And it raises question. If you have this number of security agents who are deployed for this election,
more than 400,000,
how come we still have, these pockets of violence and also intimidation targeted at people? What transpired in Lagos today is unacceptable. And I think the country needs to rise in condemnation of a situation where people who were exercising their constitutionally guaranteed right, you had thugs who invaded polling units, did not only snatch or destroy the materials, they even set them ablaze. And where were the security agents who were deployed to those polling units? What actually happened? Are we saying that these thugs have the capacity to the extent that they disempowered or overpowered, or overwhelmed the security agents who were deployed to the station? Part of the security arrangement is that in the borders, right, across the borders and in certain access routes, you had military men, who were guarding, the sort of exit and the roads. how come these people, these particular thugs, moved from one location to the another?
Whereas even legitimate voters could not even get to their polling units.
And it's the same trend. What happened in Lagos is not new. It happened in 2019 elections.
Oh, yes.
And now it's repeating itself again. And so it just tells us that, one, it's either we've not learned from the experience of 2019, or the people who are saddled with the responsibility to protect, the electoral process are either sleeping on their duty or they are complicit in this entire exercise. But what happened in Lagos, it's terribly bad, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And I hope that INEC will consider all these issues before it makes any form of declaration, on the results that come from those places, because INEC has the power. And this is where we look forward to the action that INEC will take, because the Electoral Act vests the Commission with the power to review results declared either under duress or involuntarily, or declared in contravention of the guidelines. And I hope that INEC will rise and stand with the Nigerian
We'll see
voter.
the postponements in about 141 polling units as announced by the INEC chairman early in the day. Still come back to your observers and your situation room, which I know you're monitoring all that is going on. With incidences that were reported, do you think more polling units should have been postponed at least? Beyond the 141 as announced by INEC?
Yeah, the 141 are in Bielsa. Now, there are several instances within in the guidelines, INEC's guidelines, that actually call for either postponement or suspension of those elections. But one of the things that I actually commend INEC for was they were resilient in the course of today's election, that even places where disruptions took place, they remobilized and continued with the process. The only issue is in places where voting, started late, right? There wasn't any concrete extension. They only said until the last person actually votes. What we're expecting was they would have officially extended the voting time from 2:30 to about 4 or
up to 6
at 9 p.m. Even in the nation's capital, some people are
still voting. So I think that fundamentally there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the process is still on, and we're going to have to make very difficult judgment calls, and as to whether this particular election meets the integrity test. It's going to take a lot of factors, and we're going to have to take a lot of factors into consideration before we draw a conclusion
but does he inspire any confidence at all in both I'm asking this question because of the challenges faced every 4 years in our election cycle. Are we learning anything? Both from security challenges, the issue of logistics that I just mentioned. Why should we be deploying materials late? Even in the Federal Capital Territory. The Federal Capital Territory is not a forested place. It is not swampy. It is not, it's not bordered by lakes and the ocean.
Yeah. As much as, we also need to remind Nigerians that this was a difficult election because we're dealing with the Naira crisis. You're also dealing with fuel crisis. But be that as it may, the issues relating to logistics have lingered for too long. And I don't know what will be the excuses. These are human issues, and these issues can be fixed. Yes, we have infrastructure deficit, but I don't think that's enough. But quite frankly, the logistics and the fact that voting and polling units open late is one that requires a lot of deep reflection. And if in any way, if the transport workers, or any individual sabotaged, this entire process, they should be brought to book. But I must say, as I conclude, it's too premature to draw conclusions because the process is still on, because the election is made up of different components.
Absolutely.
And so we will wait to see how this entire process pans out before we pass any judgment on the elections. But so far...
But Samson, you're not sounding very optimistic tonight. Unlike you, who we saw a few days ago, you were all excited about But so generally, as we wrap this up, you had actually raised concerns about Naira scarcity, that it would encourage vote buying.
Yeah.
Tell us, did it in any way play any part? And generally, how would you judge INEC as we wrap this up quickly?
You know, that's one good thing about this election, because in most of the reports, we didn't see vote bias.
They could.
That's one thing about this election. We didn't. That's exactly. We didn't see them. Where did it happen? Again, we can't speak to that because we're data driven. We need to interrogate further, but we didn't see those trading happen. And I'm still optimistic. But then this process is still on, and let's wait. Let's see what's INEC explanation for the delay in uploading this result. We are still working. Our data centers are fully open, and we will make our statements in the right time.
All right, thanks so very much, Samson Itodo, Executive Director of Yiaga Africa. Yes. Nigerians definitely are waiting and waiting eagerly.
And well done to you and your team for all that you're doing, really, and all observers who are ensuring that we stay updated.